That's a good one. Turned out to be a really good one. If you want to hear this song, you can find it in the channel. Let's see. Hopefully, I'll put it back in the description of this video, so you wouldn't have to kind of go around and search about it if I don't forget. Anyhow, I wanted to come back really quickly I don't think I did a good job in presenting to you the parallels visually last time of the second row. So I wanted to come back to that and kind of do this a little bit more simplistically, just so you'll have an understanding of, let's say, what the actual parallels are, and also I'm going to be talking in Ancient Macedonian, or rather the English translation of the Greek text, and then how it sounds in Ancient Macedonian, and then from there I will talk about how it sounds in Modern Macedonian, so you can have that picture of the continuity of the language. And also, of course, lastly, I won't leave you hanging. For those who doesn't speak Macedonian, I will, of course, do it in English translation. So, welcome back, legends. We're going to be diving into one of the most fascinating parts of this, which is the second row. One of them, not everything. We got also different fascinating parts of the text, even more so as we get into this body of work. But in this part, we'll be talking about a list of priests, of priestesses, of sacred officials recorded in the Koine Greek text, which is of the Rosetta Stone, which is the lowest text of the stone, and how they appear in the Ancient Macedonian language, which is the recently discovered middle or deciphered middle text of the Rosetta Stone as Ancient Macedonian language. Now, mind you, deciphered as closer to the modern Macedonian, which is a Slavian language, the modern Macedonian language, and also closer to other Slavic languages than closer to any other, especially Greek, or ancient Greek rather. So we're going to do that. We'll look at the priests of Alexander himself and the gods, the priestess or queens like Bernice and Arsinoe, and even the different ranks of temple functionaries. We'll mention that, such as prophets, scribes, the mysterious pterophori in Koine Greek. We'll see how they were named in Macedonian, although I have this type of video made, so you can check that out as well. But also this, I think, will bring more clarity. So I'll show you how these same passages sound when read in Ancient Macedonian. I'll compare them with the Modern Macedonian rendering and English translations of that Modern Macedonian. I think this way you'll see not only the continuity of the language as I mentioned, but also how our ancestors, meaning me as a Macedonian myself, Macedonian American, how my ancestors preserve their worldview, their gods, and their identity through sacred names and roles. So stick around until the end. I'll break down the final section of this video listing all the high priests, the prophets, and the scribes. And I'll also reveal what that tells us about the deep connection between the Macedonian language, religion, and heritage. So let's begin. I want to start, as I mentioned, I'm going to do the second row. So I want to do this for you. Let me see if I can do that. No, I don't want to do that. Okay. So, the second row, How can I get rid of that? Thank you. Now, I'm going to start with all the priests mentioned in the Koine Greek text, which is in the second row, which are verses 5 and 6, if you're reading from different, from like a book or something. So this is all going to be from the second Greek row, okay? It will encompass, I believe, the second, the third, and the fourth Macedonian row, because we have longer epithets there and the nature of the language is different, so we have spilled information in different rows, so to speak. So let me drink my sip of coffee because this will be interesting. So in English, in the second row of the Greek lowest text of the Rosetta Stone, we have Itis, son of Itis, being priest of Alexander, that's Alexander the Great, and of the gods. So he was priest of Alexander and of the gods. And down the line we have, and all the other priests assembled in Memphis. But in ancient Macedonian texts we have Shemo, Naibojen, na Nashei Seki, na Bojenaia, na Mesei Detsamo, Naikopo Meze. Now, you see it here in Slavic characters, but I did that on purpose just so it's easier for me to read. If you saw my last video, I think it was the last video where I actually showed you the original text, the original Macedonian text, which was the little dots and lines, which is the original Demotic script in Macedonian language. Now the script is Demotic, so-called Demotic, but the language contained in that script is Ancient Macedonian. We're talking about the script on the middle text of the Rosetta Stone. But for the sake of easily reading and to be more intelligible for you guys, I have that here, not in those characters, but rather in my current Cyrillic characters that we Macedonians use. So we have Itis, son of Itis, being priest of Alexander and of the gods, and all the other priests assembled in Memphis. That's how we have them mentioned. In Ancient Macedonian, again, we have Shemo, which means priest in singular. If it was priests in plural, we would have the same article that we attach in modern Macedonian language for plural, and that is the letter I, this will read, if it were in plural, it would have been Shemoi. But now, as here we have a priest, also in Macedonian language, we have singular priest. So we have priest, Naibojen, the most divine, Nanashei Seki, of all of ours, which means all of our Macedonians. Na Bojenaia, na Mesei Detsamo, Naikopomeze. This in Macedonian transliteration would be Sveštenikot, which is Shemo, na Naibojeniot, or Alexander, Naibojen, na Site Nashi, or the Macedonians, Nashei Seki, na Ona Bojena Ia, or Ona Bojena Zemlya. Ia means land, or Zemlya in modern Macedonian, which would be Na Bojena Ia. Što gi se decata na Mesei decamo, što gi se decata na Golemata Majka, decamo, the children of the Great Mother, from, rather, od najubavijot nebesen grad, najkopo, na našata mlada mesečina, meze, decata na junakot vekoven. I don't need that because this is the Adelphi, so this would actually be for a different comparison. So we have Sveštenikot na najboženjot, na Aleksandar, na site naši, na Makedoncite, ona Božena Ija, zemlja, što gi se decata na Golemata Majka, od najubavijot nebesen grad, na našata mlada mesečina. This may not mean a lot to you, but it will after I read the English translation, and that is, who is also the priest. This should be the priest of the most divine, which was Alexander, of all our people, of the Macedonians, of that divine Ia, of that divine land, that sows the children of the Great Mother, of the Macedonians, of the most beautiful heavenly city, of our young moon, or of our young moonlight. So, priest is Shemo, and it's in the same context all over the text. It doesn't matter where you find it in. if it's the 32nd row or if it's the first row. That's the beauty. That's the objectivity. That's the fingerprints of the objectivity that's revealed. That's contained within the deciphering work of the two Macedonian academics, Aristotle Tentov and Tome Bruszewski. If it wasn't genuine, if it wasn't valid, you would have to change the meanings of the same words too often, and it wouldn't be consistent and would have raised many questions. But we have consistency very much throughout the text of pretty much all the words. Now, Naibogen, which means the most divine, Alexander was, and within his time, while he was alive, he demanded to be worshipped as a god, something that the Caesars would demand later on, which would see that to be really effective. Ptolemy allegedly capturing the body of Alexander from Perdiccas, I believe. He also displayed it and used it as a political tool. And so the people created this cult for Alexander, and so the control was really great for the ordinary people by the Ptolemies, considering him, Alexander, a deity. So the parallel is there. If you can see, Shemo Najbožen, sveštenik najboženiot, seki na Božena, na site naši, na božestvena ija, zemlja, na Mesejej deca mo, što gi seje decata na mo, najkopo, najljubavi od nebesen grad, na našata mlada mesečina. Me zeje. So that's that. So if we continue down the road, we also have mentioning of different priests and priestess, which are the following. Pyrrha, the daughter of Philinus, being prize bearer of Bernice Euergetes. So this is the priestess that we got mentioned here, so the daughter of certain Philinus, that this priestess was a prize bearer of Bernice. So she was bearing her prizes, whatever that means, whether that's some sort of fruits or trophies or whatever. We don't know. Areia, the daughter of Diogenes, being basket bearer of Arsinoe Philadelphus. To manufacture this is quite difficult because we have certain context here, and we also have specific names, which were descriptive names even in Greek. Bernice, it means from Verenica, which means bringer of victory. Nika means victory. Veren means to bear, or the bringer of victory. Even in modern Macedonians, we have Veronica name. We have even Verenica as a title for a lady that's betrothed to a guy, and so she's considered as a trophy, but in a good sense, not in a bad sense. She's considered as a trophy which would bring victory. That's why we have that name Verenica, and that it's not because of we were Greek. It's because we have those fingerprints of the koine lingua franca that was at that time, if that makes sense. But I'm digressing as always. So we have Pyrrha, the daughter of Philinus, being prize bearer of Bernice Euergetes, and also we have Areia, the daughter of Diogenes, being basket bearer of Arsinoe Philadelphus. Down the line in the text, we also have and all the other priests assembled at Memphis. So, in Ancient Macedonian, we have mentioning of the Danos Hellenic priests or servants, which were Nadeti I Shemoi Nadenaive Jeive. In modern Macedonian, that will be Nadeti, Nadecata, I Shemoi Denaive, I Nadanaiskite Sveštenici Jeive, Živi. So it's pretty much almost the same words, even in form, but different structure of the sentence. Okay? So we have Nadeti I Shemoi Nadenaive Jeive. Nadecata I Sveštenicite Nadanajte Živi. That would mean in translation, but in English translation, it will be of the children and of the living Danaian priests, or the Hellenic priests. And it's done, just keep this in mind. The original maxim of don't trust the Greeks whenever they bring presents, it's actually, that's a Latin maxim, it's actually saying don't trust the Danaans even when they bring presents. So I'm thinking of creating a video to explain why we have this Danaan instead of Hellenic name. And that will blow your minds, guys. Okay? Because it's backed up by historical sources and evidence. Okay, so we have the priests mentioned and we see the parallels. It's eerily similar with the Macedonians. So we have Shemo najbožen, sveštenikot na najboženiot. Na naše iseki, na site naši. Ili na našite site. Na naše iseki. Na božena ija, ona božestvena ija. На Месеје и деца мо, што ги сее децата на мо, на големата мајка, најкопо Мезе, најбавиот небесен ко и скај, небесен град на нашата млада ора, who is also the priest of the most divine, of the Alexander, all of our people, of the Macedonians, that divine land that sows the children of the great mother, or that sows the Macedonians, of the most beautiful heavenly city of our young moon. Later on, we have more specific things mentioned, like Pyrrha, the daughter of Philinus. This is in the Greek text. And they needed to know this. They needed to know the specific of their priests. These are the Danaan priests, the living Danaan priests, which is Pyrrha, the daughter of Philinus, Areia, the daughter of Diogenes. And these are all servants of the Macedonian ruling class, which was Bernice Euregetes, Arsinoe Philadelphus. And so, but Macedonians didn't have to know that, didn't have to know their names, because those orders are not given to the Macedonians, right? It makes all perfect sense. Hence, we have only of the children and of the living Danaan priests, instead of like we have Pyrrha, the daughter of Philinus, Areia, the daughter of Diogenes, so on and so forth. But as you can notice, we have those specific ruling class names mentioned, like Bernice Euregetes and Arsinoe Philadelphus. Oh, so how do we have them in the ancient Macedonian text? Well, stick around. I'm about to reveal that to you. So we have Bernice Euregetes, which in English, we find it, as we mentioned earlier, Pyrrha, the daughter of Philinus, being prize bearer of Bernice Euregetes. Now, Bernice is a female name of ancient Greek origin derived from the name Berenica or Verenica, which means bringer of victory, as I earlier mentioned, or she who brings victory. Okay. Now, the ancient Macedonian name for Berenica Euregetes, Evridica, or in modern Macedonian parallel, would be, the ancient Macedonian would be Bogomoi nazevo gonye nashte bogoyoho jebe. Or in modern Macedonian, Bogomoi od mojte bogovi nazevo gonye narečena je, nazevo gonje, nazovena je, našте Bogo Ho je be. Na našата богиња Ho е млада душа. Now, Ho е богиња на војната, победата, писменоста или мудроста. Односно, оној кој е дете на оваа победоносна богиња, носи победа. In English, this will be, by my gods, she is called our greatest Ho's young soul. That will be Našte Bogo Ho je be. Our greatest Ho's young soul. Now, Ho is the goddess of war, victory, literacy, or wisdom. In other words, one who is a child of this victorious goddess brings victory. We come full circle, right? Interesting. So, we have Bernice Euregetes, and also we have in ancient Macedonian the one who is called by our gods, the one that's a child or young soul of our god Ho, of the goddess of victory. Interesting stuff. All right, and then Arsinoe Philadelphus Philopator, we have her mentioned earlier, so I'm going to repeat that, as Areia, the daughter of Diogenes, being basket bearer of Arsinoe Philadelphus. So she's carrying the name Philadelphus of the name of the pharaoh, right? Okay. So, hence, in ancient Macedonian, we have Najbožena dive bogo na vjo moje imo. Or in modern Macedonian, najboženata, dive bogo, koja se divi na bogot, ili go почитува, го обожува Богот, на вјо моје име, на овој од кој го има своето име, or името на Ptolemy Philadelphus или Philopator. Interesting, right? So you have here Arsinoe, and then the name of the pharaoh, and here we have the most divine who marvels at the God of this one from whom she takes her name, which means the name of Ptolemy, which was Philadelphus or Philopator, equals Arsinoe Philadelphus or Philopator. You can't make this stuff up, man, because the context of mentioning this is within what her function was. I'm talking about the context in the ancient Macedonian language, and that parallels in the Greek text as well. And that's throughout the text, throughout the ancient Macedonian text, which is the middle text of the Rosetta Stone. All right, moving forward, we also have mentioning of Irene, now the daughter of Ptolemy and Arsinoe. This will be very interesting. So how was Irene mentioned as a daughter of Ptolemy and Arsinoe? Well, she's mentioned in the Greek text. So here's the English translation from the Greek text. Irene, the daughter of Ptolemy, being priestess. So there's a function as well of Arsinoe Philopator. Whoa. So in ancient Macedonian, we have Navio Mojeimo, Bovezedze prva, Ronimo Navio Moca, Na dočoju ževenu, toj bogomo divejei, a šemo najbožena, dive bogo navio mojeimo. Sounds familiar? Boveze prv na veveto. So, we have Irene, the daughter of Ptolemy, being priestess of Arsinoe Philopator. Now, priestess, that's feminine. So we should be having the same grammar in the Macedonian text. So let's see. We expect that. Let's see what the actual is. The modern Macedonian, which means na vjo moje imo, na ovo što го носи името на Бовезедзе прва Ронимо, на славната месечева мистична создадена млада душа, на ovo što го носи името на фараонот, на вjo моje имо, which was the Boveze, which was the young mystical created soul. Во домот ни на големата мајка, ронемо на вjo моца на дочују. Let me back up. So, we have на вjo моје имо, на овој, на оваа, на вjo, на оваа, што го носи името на фараонот, во домот ни на големата мајка, So let me read it. As I read it, let me alliterate that for you in Ancient Macedonian. I don't think I have this correct not because of what's said, but because of the structure. So proročica prva will have to be somewhere in the top because it's dze prva. All right. So na vjo moje imo boveze dze prva. So na ovoj od mojeto ime koje mlada создадена душа, млада мистична создадена душа е дзе прва, е виделина прва, односно е пророчица прва, ронимо на вjo моца во домот ни на големата мајка, моца, на дочу јужевену, тој богомо дивејеј, она ќерка на живиот кој се диви на големата мајка, which was the pharaoh. Ќерката, онаа ќерка на живиот кој се диви на големата мајка, онаа ќерка на фараонот. А шемо најбожена, а свештеничка, шемо најбожена, свештеничка најбожена, која се диви на Богот, на оваја со неговото име, кој е прва млада создадена душа на великиот мајстор. So here we have на вjo моје имо, Бовезедзе прва, belonging to the one who has the pharaoh's name, which was Arsinoe, right, being priestess. And here we have, she's not also a priestess, but she's a prophetess. Because we have here, she's a prophetess. So belonging to the one, so let me read that for you in English. To this one who bears the name of the glorious created young soul. So belonging to the one who carries the name of the Pharaoh, belonging to Arsinoe, in the home of the great mother, that daughter, so she's the one that belongs to the Arsinoe, that daughter of the living one, of Ptolemy, the one who admires, who worships the great mother. Talking about Irene, because Irene is mentioned as a daughter of Ptolemy, right? Is the first prophetess and is a priestess, Shemonai, which is also in feminine, of the most divine of Arsinoe, who marvels at the God who bears the name of this God, Arsinoe Philadelphos Philopator. Everything makes perfect sense, is just mentioned in a different way, but the context is there. If it was word for word similar, me myself will be the first to say these guys made a forgery. This is not real, you know? Just as you would in any court of law, if you have identical witness testimonies, you would raise some questions, right? And so it is here. If you would have like word for word identical translation of the Greek text, then I would be, as I said, I would be the first one to say, no, these guys are not genuine and they're liars. But we have, this is magnificent, guys, what's happening here. Because we have here Irene, the daughter of Ptolemy, and being priestess of Arsinoe Philopator. And so we have belonging to the one who carries the name of the Pharaoh, or belonging to Arsinoe. She is a prophetess and a priestess. And it's in feminine. The grammar is there. The context is there, you know? And also and also she's a daughter of Ptolemy, which here was mentioned, na dochoyu, jevenu toi bogomo diveye, which would mean this daughter of the living one who worships the great mother, which was the Pharaoh. Whew. Everything is there. Everything, the context is there, as I mentioned, and it's just magnificent. So let's continue. So lastly, for this video, I will show you the list of different groups of religious functionaries referenced in both ancient Macedonian and ancient Hellenic texts. So in English, or rather in Greek, in the Greek text of the Rosetta Stone, which is the lowest portion of the stone, this is the English translation of it, we have the high priests and the prophets and those who enter the sanctuary on the robing of the gods, and the pterophori, which were the ones who were carrying, which were the scribes. They were carrying the ptero, they were carrying the feathers for writing. Okay, and the sacred scribes, right? On the day a forehead declared. He declared a forehead. Okay, so in Macedonian section we have, which is the middle text of the Rosetta Stone, we have Naive, which is a forehead declared, Naiavi in modern Macedonian. Naive, Yese decamo bogodze I decamo shemoi, Yenashika ye voi shemolna. And then we have Naive naje lushito, Naizea mo naikopo meze decamo voi ito. Ito, modern itat. Naibo na bogovi decamo amoi na ro ia. Naice na ro ia decamo I bemovo hovoto. It's so epic. It's so epic. Okay, so let's break this down. We have the high priest and the prophets. So let me tell you what we have here. Naive yese decamo bogodze. Naiavi. Predvreme naiavi, which means a forehead declared. Site deca na Boga što gleda se, or site proroci. И децата свештеници кои се на оваа најголемата свештеничка заштитничка пастир на храмот. Најави пред време јави, како што е желбата или волјата на големата мајка на Каменов. The context We'll talk about this later. Од најубавото небесно поле на младата месечина, овие деца, неизини што итаат или влегуваат каде што е најдушата горна, or the deceased one, покојниот, кај боговите на децава, во моите домови на земјата, најценетите домови на земјата или во светилиштата, sanctuaries, на моите деца на македонците, и младиве наши души, ховооти, или оние кои припаѓаат на богот Хо, богот на писменоста, или се зборува за писарите. Okay, now, enough of that. For you English-speaking friends, we have, let me just remind you, the Greek text has the high priests and the prophets, and those who enter the sanctuary on the robing of the gods, and the pterophorai, and the sacred scribes, and on the day of forehead declared. So the Macedonian text has, announced in advance, all the children of the all-seeing God. If you're children of the all-seeing God, you would see. So you will be a seer, you will be a prophet. So all the prophets and the child, or body of people in diminutive, priests, and the child priests, who are of this greatest priestess, protector, shepherd of the temple, which was, I believe, Irene. She was a priestess and a prophetess. So it all ties in together. Announced in advance as is the will of the Great Mother on this stone. From the most beautiful celestial field, that's where the Great Mother is, of the new moon. So they thought that the Great Mother lives on the moon, and that she has a great celestial alien city there. Probably in the back side of the moon, the black side of the moon. But never mind, let me not go there now. Okay. These children of hers who rush or who enter where the Most High Soul or the deceased is among the gods of these children, into my homes on earth, the most precious homes on earth, in the sanctuaries. So it's another way of saying the sanctuaries of my children or of the Macedonians, and our young souls, hovoti, or the ones belonging to the god Ho. If the god Ho is the god of literacy, this would mean the hovoti are the scribes. Okay, so interesting stuff. Just really quickly, so we have the high priests and the prophets. So we have Yese Detsamodze I Detsamoshemui. So the high priests, which would be Detsamoshemui, and those who enter the sanctuary of the high priests and the prophets, Se Detsamobogodze, right? The high priests will be the children of the people that are priests here, and the prophets, all of the children that belong to the God who sees everything, who enter the sanctuaries. The high priests are I Detsamoshemui Yenashitya Yevoi Shemolna. Shemolna, as previously in our previous videos we had from the first row, Macedonian row, I remember we had Mojoilna, and that's a maximitive for manliness, for a man actually. A maximitive for a man, which in modern Macedonian we would have Majovina, somebody that's like a prime manliness, a manly guy, a strong guy, first among men, so to speak. Shemolna, in that sense, will be a maximitive from Shemonai Bojena, which would mean the feminine of a priest, which means priestess, the prime priestess. And here we have the high priests, which would be the same thing. But the children of the God who sees everything, what we have here is Se deca mu bogodze, site deca na bogodze, na Bogu što gleda se, which I would translate into the prophets. Now, who enter the sanctuaries, which would be voi ito, ovie itat, naibo pa bogovi decamo, where who enter the sanctuaries would mean voi ito naibo pa bogovi decamo. Voi ito, ovie što itat, kada što je najdушата горна на богови decamo. of these children of the Great Mother. And where could the deceased be, if not in a temple, in a sanctuary, right? Which the sanctuary would mean something that's sanctified, something that's precious. And here we have, again, that word that also we have for Ptolemy Epiphanes, which was Naitse. Here we have also something that's really honored, a sanctuary of sort, is Naitse Naroia. Ro is always prevalent as a home. Not a house, but a home. A house is ko, or koke. In modern Macedonian is kutya. Alright. So the parallels are there. As I mentioned, if you would have found this in word by word identical with the ancient Greek text, that would have raised some eyebrows. And I will be the first one to do that. I want the truth. And so far, I started this as a skeptic. I was like, who are these guys, man? How can they do this? This is so ridiculous. People will make fun of us. And so what I did was, let me try myself. Let me see what they actually did so that I can actually debunk this. That was honest truth, my take on it. The first thing I got into this kind of stuff. As I kept reading the stuff made more sense. And the stuff confirmed itself that it was a scientific result because of the method that was used, and the method was recognized in their explanation, and also just the sheer ridiculousness if you think that you can manufacture this. You can't manufacture this. Those are the symbols. You can't change the symbols from the original text. So what you would need to do if you want to manufacture the results, it would have to be changing the meanings, changing the grammar, do a whole bunch of gymnastics around words and stuff. But here we have clear Macedonian grammar, clear rules, like what ze means, always throughout the text, what ro means, what ia means, what ditsa means, right? Everything is there and everything is set. Everything is discovered and established now. So I hope you like this video. I'm planning to do more comparisons just so it will be more clear to you guys as I go further down the text and do comparisons with the rows and finding out for myself what actually is being said and learning new things from the Ancient Macedonian language contained in the middle text of the Rosetta Stone. I also plan to do these kind of videos where I give you a clear presentation of how things parallel to each other, because I often get the thing that, so what does it say? Does it say the same thing? And I was like, what do you mean the same thing? Well, it has to say the same thing. Well, to be compared with the Greek and the hieroglyphic text on the stone. I said, yeah, it does say the same thing. But hey, you see here it says the high priest of the prophets, and here you have, or rather, here you have the structure is different. Here you have first saying this, but then later saying that. In the Macedonian text, the other way around. Yeah, but it's still saying the same thing. It's a different language, but so it's just purely natural to say, it's still saying the same thing, but the structure of the sentence is different because we're talking about a different language, right? So I think this will kind of share some light in the objectivity of the results, among many other things so far. So I hope you like this again. One way of contributing, you can like this video, you can subscribe, or just grab something from the store. Currently we have only one shirt, but that's about to change. We also have some beautiful mugs that you wanna check out. It will be in the description below. So that will be all. Interesting stuff. Everything is mentioned in its own way. The context is not lost. We have the same context between the Middle Macedonian text and the lowest Greek text of the Rosetta Stone. So keep praying for me, guys, and keep supporting this channel, because it takes a bit of bandwidth to do all this kind of stuff, because it's not easy, man. You have to analyze, you have to double check things, you don't want to lie to people. So saying all that, I want to just say goodbye, and hope I'll see you next time, buddies. See ya.
Seeking